DeQuan Finn is just as exciting as the numbers say. But don't take my word for it. Let's talk to someone who's watched him over the last 3 years. This is Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Locked On Baylor. I am your host, Cam Stuart. And of course, to bring in all the intel on Toledo quarterback DeQuan Finn, I have done the only sensible thing, and I have gotten the host of Locked On Gators, Mr. Brandon Olsen, to bring us the intel. But Brandon, you do have kind of a tie to DeQuan Finn in Toledo, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Went to Toledo myself.
Oh, there you go. There you
So
go.
yeah, I was there in the Kareem Hunt days. That was when I got to go.
Something to brag about.
Yeah, storm the field. Got to watch them beat Arkansas, which is a really fun one. Just want to bring that one up.
Nice. That wouldn't have flown very well with some former Locked On Baylor podcast hosts and Locked On College Football Live hosts now. But talking about DeQuan Finn, so you've obviously seen a lot of them. You still follow your alma mater. You watch all the games. And as soon as I had tweeted out a video about DeQuan Finn, which I've just realized I've been saying wrong as DeQuan the whole time, DeQuan Finn, first one you were like, you guys are going to want this guy. You're going to want him. When he entered the transfer portal earlier this month, just about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, were you thinking Power 5, this kid's going right to the moon?
Yeah, absolutely. When DeQuan Finn hit the portal, my immediate thought was, this is one of those instances which is becoming increasingly more common, where you look at a group of 5 kid, an FCS kid, an Ivy League, whatever it might be, and they're looking to take the next step up and show NFL teams what they can do against higher competition. And once Finn hit the portal, that was my immediate thought, because he's been so good for a few years now. It's not like he has anybody, breathing down his neck for a starting quarterback job. It's strictly go to the next level, probably bump his NIL up a little bit, but go to the Power 5 level, bump up his NIL, and try to show some NFL teams what he can do. Because I'll be honest, I love him. I don't think he's shown NFL teams that he's an NFL player yet. So I think that that's a big selling point for him, is to kind of prove like, hey, I'm not just doing this in action. Like, I could do this at the higher level as well.
And this does feel like the good side of the transfer portal. Like, there's so much bad to it. And even schools like Baylor that are obviously Power 5, but on the lower level in terms of size and resources, there's a lot of bad that comes out. But this is what should be the positive. He doesn't leave Toledo as a sophomore. He develops there. He gives them 3 seasons. He has a degree from Toledo, and now he's going to go play 1 year somewhere else. Is this kind of the good side of the transfer portal, coming out with a kid who has developed at a lower level and can now hopefully start at a Power 5 level?
Yeah, this is exactly what I think it was intended to be for. That the transfer portal was, like, guys, like, I'm a Florida fan, Florida host. Like, I've seen O'Cyrus Torrence go from Louisiana to Florida, have an All-American year, and go be a 2nd-round pick in the NFL draft. And it's like, that's what it's for. Because if you dominate Louisiana players, they're going to be like, okay, you did it against the Sun Belt. Now you're going to be going up against NFL, like, grown men strength players. And for DeQuan Finn specifically, I think when you look at what he's going to be facing at the Big 12, it's going to be a lot more complex defensively than we've seen. Yeah, much better defense than we've seen in the MAC, which, no knock on the MAC, obviously, but I think that taking that next step to Big 12 is really what we're looking for. And that's, again, what the transfer portal was meant for. Like, you can take the next step. He was at Toledo for 5 years, dude. Like, this isn't one of those cases where we're ever going to be like, the transfer portal's killing college football.
Right. They're just poaching the little guys. Yeah.
Yeah. He was there for 5 years. I think it was redshirt his first year, then COVID year, and then starter the past 3 years. So this is just, it was his time to go. I don't really know another dominant year in the MAC, making a MAC championship game and being MAC offensive player. That doesn't do much for your NFL stock. I think that he's looking at this with a kind of foresight into what he can be in the future.
Sure. And talk about that player profile a little bit. We know he's a dual threat guy. Sometimes that gets thrown around a little too much these days. I saw, we talked about Malik Murphy on the show last week, and I saw a lot of people thinking he's a dual threat guy. He's not. But with the numbers from DeQuan Finn, that certainly seems to be the case for him. So tell me a little bit about the quarterback profile on DeQuan Finn.
Yeah, I think he's one of those guys that you genuinely call a dual threat. It's not like, oh, he's got a big arm, and if you're playing very far off coverage, he can make you pay a little bit or anything like that. I think he's genuinely someone who you have to respect both his arm and his legs. He's proven that time and time again. I think the biggest thing I maybe hate about his play is that he's a bit riskier than I like to think of as a quarterback. And it's not that they're bad throws. It's like if you can make it, you can make it. I just think that he tends to think like, I can do it on plays where you probably shouldn't test that because I don't think he has otherworldly arm strength at all. I think he's perfectly passable there, but again, he's not Josh Allen out here. But I do think that one thing is he had the benefit of playing behind the best offensive line in the MAC in Toledo. It's not even close, really. Like they genuinely put out kind of Power 5 quality offensive line. You look at some of the players, Texas Tech just took Toledo starting guard.
Well, Power 5 quality offensive line. You know what that says to me, Brandon? That means it's better than Baylor's offensive line. Now you're worrying me. Now you're worrying me a little bit. Do you think he could hold up behind an offensive line that hopefully is a little bit better than this year, which was worse than the Big 12?
Yeah, I think it's hard to be worse, right? Like you have to say, oh yeah, it's going to be better than it was this year. But I do think he can. I think that his skill set allows him to be one of those players where you can have a little bit of a worse offensive line and the pressure numbers still might be high, but he's able to escape pressure with some of the best in college football right now. He just has such a skill for extending a play with his legs when he needs to. One thing he does well that I think a lot of people don't give a damn about is he throws the ball away when there's nothing there.
Oh, I love that.
That's something where people are going to be annoyed at. Why'd you throw it away? Try to make a play. You're athletic. Try to make a play. But if there's nothing there, like I'll take an incompletion as opposed to a negative play any day of the week. So I think that he does that very well. But I think that he has the ability to make an offensive line look better. Like you're going to see less sacks and you're going to go, oh my God, the offensive line got so much better. Pressures might be the exact same, but he just does a good job of evading sacks there. And I think that he really helps an offensive line. And even in the run game, he's legitimately a rushing threat. He had, I think it was like over 30% of his yards were just on long runs on their own. So I think that him being a rushing threat means that you kind of have to respect the zone read more than most teams have to. And it makes your offensive line's job easier, makes your running back's job easier. So I think that he's one of those players. I'm not saying Heisman, but I think he
heard Heisman in there. I'm clipping that as Heisman. Yeah. Hopefully, Locked On Baylor No Context does not clip that and just taking DeQuan Finn, Heisman next to each other. Let's hope that doesn't happen.
What are the odds? Like, what does FanDuel have it right now?
Oh, that's a good question. That is a good question. What FanDuel's got it at? So you're telling me he's a smart quarterback too, which I like to hear. And making an offensive line look better is big bonus because I fear he is going to need to do that. But what I'm more wondering is what kind of quarterback is he like? Like, who can we compare him to? Let's talk about that after this. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance, from superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber. You're not burning cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only, and exclusions do apply. All right, Brandon. So you talked about he is a legitimate dual threat guy. He has a good arm, but probably not as good as he thinks it is. So are we looking at a guy who can go up to the next level and be a game manager, which is totally fine? Or can he be a kind of transcendent style quarterback? And what I mean by that is not necessarily RG3 Heisman, but one who can keep the defense on their toes all by himself.
Yeah, I definitely think that you have to show some respect that he's not going to be RG3. It's just I can tell you that one now.
Damn.
But I think you look at him as a dual threat who can, again, he's not going to be a world beater, but I think you look at someone like, as much as I hate to make like another Big 12 comparison, I'm not saying Baylor. I was just going to say someone like, I think of maybe a Max Duggan type, which isn't like a world beater, but I think it's respectable. Again, I think he's capable of doing it also. I think maybe like a Max Duggan type, just without the power to his game, a little bit shiftier. And I think he brings that to the table. Absolute toughness. Like he's smart. He's going to go out of bounds. He's going to slide. Might try to get a little too risky at times. He definitely gave me some heart attacks. I will tell you that. But that's the fan in me. But I think that you look at someone like that and you go, all right, if we build around him, like he's capable of winning football games. And Max Duggan went to the college football.
Because they won a lot of football games, man.
Yeah, so I think it's someone that if you build around him like that, you can he can help you compete. And I think that he's gonna instantly raise Baylor's floor for this coming season.
Love that. And I like that comparison because what I've watched from him, mostly highlights, not all 22 tapes, but I was thinking, I'm gonna get skewered for saying this, but he looks like just I've been using the term diet version, but like a diet version of a Colt McCoy, which I think is similar to, Max Duggan is a poor man's Colt McCoy he's a guy who can get out of the pocket. Again, same thing, not a huge arm, but can make the throws, is a smart quarterback. He knows when to throw it away. Hopefully he has better timing of throwing it away than Colt McCoy did. Thinking back to that 2009 Big 12 championship game where he almost single-handedly cost Texas a shot in the championship. But okay, so that makes some sense. So my next question you've seen a lot of him on tape at Toledo. Was there a moment early on in his career or maybe even later where you were like, man, thank God we got this kid. He is different.
I think a lot of his freshman year, he showed moments because he didn't have, I don't think that his offensive line, or not his freshman year, but his first year as a starter, I don't think his offensive line back then was as good as it is currently. And he works with an offense that they require you to spread it out. They require you to be able to throw the ball. And when he first came in, he didn't start the year as the starter. Like he had to play a couple snaps here and there against Norfolk and stuff like that and try to like rotate in. But as he got more experience and more comfortable, he made some great plays. Like I look at the Bowling Green game early in his career, which if you're new to the rivalry, which I'm certain everyone watching this is, Toledo Bowling Green, like that's our blue bonnet game, right?
Yes, what a reference. Yes. Hopefully no players transfer between the two like we had this weekend.
Hope not. I remember seeing that. I was like, really?
That rubbed me the wrong way.
That's a decision. But for Toledo Bowling Green, our Battle of I-75 is what we call it. That's what we look forward to every single year. Toledo won this year, and it was at Bowling Green, and Toledo's fans stormed the field. Like it's that kind of disrespectful thing. And for me, that was one of his biggest performances of that season. He threw for, I think, almost 300, or maybe he passed 300, but it was a great performance for him to be kind of game managing, but also was like making some plays where you're like, all right, you're testing downfield a little bit more. Because again, at the time, he was 3 games into his starting career and playing against a big rival. And so for me, that's the moment where I was like, okay, like DeQuan Finn is someone that I love. Like it's as simple as that. I will love him till the day I die. And that's kind of the approach that I've taken, where he showed up, and that started, if I'm not mistaken, that started like a big stretch of him having high performance games and making big plays. So for me, it's going to be that Bowling Green game in 2021. I think it was his first year starting.
Perfect, man. We need someone who could beat the rivals. It's been a long time, man. If when we just play TCU and put Bowling Green stickers on their helmets or something to help him do that. That would be fantastic. But hey, Toledo does get the better hand on the football field. Bowling Green does have one member of the Miracle on Ice team to Toledo 0. So look, that's a tough. I know you're a New York guy. I didn't want to bring that up, but I just had to put it out there for the visitor or the listeners who were dying to hear that. So okay, so early on in his career, he's letting you know that he's different, and the success followed. Like, I know Toledo is always a good program. They're always winning football games. It had been, I think, one trip to the MAC championship game, if I'm not mistaken, from 04 to 2022. He takes you there 2 years in a row. You win it in 22. He's the MAC player of the year in 23. How much of his rise coincided with Toledo kind of getting to that next level?
Oh, a ton. Like, you look at the players that have either come to Toledo since DeQuan Finn got named starter, or have left Toledo and they had significant rises. You look at Matt Landers, was someone who was at Georgia, then went to Toledo, and finally put it together as a receiver, and then he went to Arkansas and then the NFL. But a lot of that also is just with DeQuan Finn's skill set and their chemistry they had. You look at just this season for Toledo, and it was like Penny Boone, who had a phenomenal year this past year as a running back, just lit it up. And so much of that opened up because of DeQuan Finn. Like he elevates the players around him. But I think a lot of it, if you have a pocket passer, I don't think Penny Boone has the year that he had. Because I think that having DeQuan Finn, second leading rusher for the team this year for Toledo. Like he did so much with his legs that opened up everything else. Like I mentioned, the offensive line. Already, I think the best offensive line, he makes them look even better. And him being able to operate that offense at a high level, which we've seen for Toledo, when you have a guy who can operate it at a high level, it's like no other. Like, that system is great. There's a reason Miami was trying to bring Jason Candle in as offensive coordinator when they hired Mario Cristobal. When you can get that offense churning, you look at, I think it was 2017 with Logan Woodside when they went to the MAC championship the first time under Jason Candle. And it was, high quarterback play brought everybody else up for Toledo. It brought this whole offense up. And defense has always been pretty stout for as long as I've been following Toledo, since I went there in 2014. But the offense finally picking up with players like DeQuan Finn and like Logan Woodside a few years ago. It's clear that quarterback play there is really what elevates the play. And that's what DeQuan Finn did these past 3 years. Toledo's been phenomenal. Lost the MAC championship in a game that just sucked this year, at least for me. But I do think that a lot of the recent success can be attributed to DeQuan Finn and what he brings to the table for the Rockets.
And I love hearing that, because there's no premium. There's no price you can put on a guy who makes his teammates better and makes his team better. And Baylor just needs that in the worst kind of way. I mean, Baylor's had good quarterback play the last couple of years, but I used the term, which I used earlier in the show, but yesterday I used the term transcendent. They just didn't have anything that elevated the team. So this is great to hear. And I'm going to mention a stat here just for those of you, if you're tuning into DeQuan Finn for the first time. It doesn't have anything to do with my next question to you, Brandon, but I have to put it out there. Okay? Because over the last 2 years, there have only been 4 FBS quarterbacks, just 4, who have had 18 plus passing touchdowns and 7 rushing touchdowns in each of the last 2 seasons. Those quarterbacks are Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jordan Travis, and DeQuan Finn. And if you want to bump that up to those numbers again of 18 plus passing touchdowns and 7 plus rushing touchdowns in each of the last 3 seasons, the number goes down from 4 to 1. And that person is DeQuan Finn. So my last question to you, Brandon, why are Baylor fans going to love having DeQuan Finn on their team?
Watch him play one time. If you haven't watched him play yet, if you're a Baylor fan, watch him play one game and just watch what he does. It's so clear that he's lightning in a bottle. I don't care, home run threat, whatever cliched term you want to use. You're gonna watch him play, and you're gonna be like, okay, we have someone who's immediately making this program better. And I think that if you don't like that, then you're not an actual fan of whatever team you say you're a fan of, because pretty important part there. But I think it's truly just, he will make huge plays. And again, like I said, he'll take risks that I wouldn't take personally, because I can't throw the ball to save my life. But he will take risks that you're like, oh, that was wild. But he will make far more big plays where you could attribute it to like a Josh Allen type with the Bills, where you're like, all right, you're gonna make some boneheaded decisions, but man, you're gonna make some spectacular plays that I will take every negative with, because there's going to be so many positives from him.
I'll take that. I'll take that. Now, Brandon, you are the DeQuan Finn expert. You are also the Locked On Gators host. You'll be covering a Baylor target next year, DJ Lagway, unfortunately. But you do have something else that you've got going on in the media circles that I think some fans here, even at Baylor, would love to follow along with. Can you tell them what it is and where to find it?
Yeah, I mean, I've got Whole Nine Sports with NFL 33 on Substack. If you want to look at that, where we do strictly NFL draft content. And that's mostly also Giants country with SI. If you're a Giants fan, which I just want to point out, if you're a Giants fan and a Baylor fan, or you're like me and you're a Giants fan and a Gators fan, your life is not good this year, and I'm so sorry to hear that.
We'll try being a Baylor fan and a Patriots fan, and then having a Giants fan on your
podcast.
So.
Boo-hoo. Force, yeah. Oh, 4 Super Bowls.
It's not fun, man. We just won by accident last week. We're going to miss the number 1 pick.
Good.
Only we can mess this up.
I hope
we just can't help but beating the Steelers. It just happens every time.
Tommy DeVito just took my team out of competition for a top 10 pick, really. Like, so I don't want to hear that. All right. At least yours is the guy that might start. Mine is Tommy DeVito.
Gotta love him. Gotta love him. Whole Nine Sports is where to find him. At WNS_Brandon, the official DeQuan Finn expert, joining us today. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for allowing me to talk DeQuan Finn.
I love talking DeQuan Finn. Baylor's got another guy coming in that just announced that this week. We're going to talk about him coming up after this. And yes, DeQuan Finn isn't the only guy who has committed to Baylor early in this week. Bears have actually had a couple of signings. And look, this is positive. You know, it's not earth-shattering. You still need to bring in some offensive linemen, but this has been a good couple of days for Bears fans in terms of the players they are bringing in. Now, I'm going to get this guy out there first because I'm going to butcher the name. So just stick with me here. Tonga Lolohea. Lolohea. Tonga Lolohea. Lolohea. Tonga Lolohea. Tonga Lolohea. Lolohea. Tonga Lolohea. No, probably Tonga Lolohea. Tonga Lolohea. A news... no. God, this is tough for me, guys. Tonga Lolohea. Tonga Lolohea. Lolohea. Tonga Lolohea. Nose tackle from Tyler Junior College. 6'4", 325 pounds. And as I was reading from the article, the way our Daily Bears puts it is that is a gigantic human. That is a big kid coming up to plug up the middle. Baylor needs some real help on the defensive line as much as they do on the offensive line. I would love to see some more pass rushers on this team, but they also need help in the middle. I mean, they didn't have a real true nose tackle this year, and that's not any player's fault. I just don't know if they had the build or the prototype of a nose tackle to come in here. And so now they do with Tonga Lolohea. Bang. So that's a big add in terms of a positional need. I don't know how much he's going to light it up. I don't know how much he'll play this year, but coming from the junior college ranks, but that is a positional need for Baylor. Another positional need they have to a certain extent still is safety. The corners, they're very young, but they've got some guys there, including Caden Jenkins, who is a freshman All-American. And Baylor thought, well, you know, there's this kid, Cameren Jenkins, twin brother of Caden Jenkins. He plays safety out at UNLV. He's now a Baylor Bear. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Perfect sense. Cameren Jenkins, like I said, safety, so not corner like his brother, did get some playing time this year. Appears in 10 games for the Runnin' Rebs. He has 32 tackles, a couple of pass breakups. Bang. Need a safety, young safety, 3 years of eligibility left. You got one. And what I'm hoping for is the ball skills that his brother Caden has, because that's something that Baylor has not had the last 2 seasons. the jackers and robbers that we heard about in 2021. This might get confusing, but stick with me here. Not all great defenses are great at forcing turnovers. Not all great turnover teams are great defenses, but they help each other out both times. Both times. And if Baylor had a few more guys who could make plays on the ball this year, the defense certainly wouldn't have been ranked 120th. And one of the guys that definitely had those skills was Caden Jenkins. I mean, the picks that he made this year, even the opportunistic plays that he makes on the ball with recovering that fumble against TCU, he's a ball hawk. And if his twin brother's anything like that, then that is a big boost for Baylor. He has not redshirted yet, so Cameren Jenkins still could redshirt, but 3 years of eligibility left. He's coming in for the future. We know Caden Jenkins has committed himself to the future as well. So the Jenkins brothers are going to take over Waco, man. I mean, this could be exactly what Baylor needs, those foundational pieces. And you know, the guy who commits to stay, bringing in his brother, and certainly lifting up spirits in the locker room is all something that is positive for Baylor. And having these young defensive backs kind of bonding together and having their own core on the defense, I think will pay dividends for Baylor at some point. I hope it's sooner rather than later, but they are all young. So we will certainly see with that. But positives, man. 3 guys in the last, in about a 24-hour span, less of DeQuan Finn and Cameren Jenkins and DeQuan Finn, Cameren Jenkins, and the nose tackle from Tyler Junior College, Tonga Lolohea. Easy. And I hope that will lead to Baylor forcing teams into mistakes on the defensive side. Again, I think that's something that was lacking, of course, this year. And there was plenty more holes in the defense this year, but it was really lacking last year with a defense that on paper was much better than the one this year, but they had a tough time getting off the field because they couldn't force turnovers. And that was the biggest difference from the 2021 defense to the 22 defense. And that was why there was such a stark difference in all the counting numbers, the points per game, the yards allowed per game, all of that, I think was the child of not being able to force a bunch of turnovers on defense. So let me know what you think about this. I think it's nice to have another ball playing defensive back in there. Now, what is interesting about Cameren Jenkins is he did not get a Baylor offer out of high school. That is bizarre. I mean, he was an all-district player. He did get some either PWOs or offers from schools like Iowa or SMU, and Mississippi State might have been the other one. I think there was an SEC school in there. So it's not like he was just a no-chip prospect. He wasn't as a highly touted a prospect as his brother was, but neither was Donovan Duvernay, and he got to get to Baylor and UT because of Devin Duvernay. So it is a little weird that he didn't even get an offer from Baylor. But hey, credit to the kid. He didn't have the offer last year. He impressed enough this year that he does have a spot on the team, and good for him, man. We want players that are on the ascent like that. And I certainly think his brother Caden is that way too, even though he had a very strong freshman year. So building blocks for this Baylor team, and a great start to get this defense out of the hole that it was already in. Let me know what you think. What do you think about Cameren Jenkins coming in? What do you think about Tonga Lolohea coming in? What do you think about DeQuan Finn, if you haven't told me already? Did Brandon kind of get you on the side of DeQuan Finn? We're going to have more tomorrow. It's going to be a Duke preview, baby. Baylor men's basketball back at it, looking for a bounce-back win. I might have changed my mind about this team going deep in the tournament again. So stick around. We're going to preview that game against Duke tomorrow on Locked On Baylor.